name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
As I said, I'm with the Greater Shreveport Chamber of Commerce diplomats. We have a few of the diplomats here. We go around, both the Bossier and Shreveport diplomats go around and with ribbon cutting, groundbreaking, so on, to be able to tell the rest of the community about what's going on relative to Home Federal or any other businesses we're working with. Diplomats, hold up your hands so people know where you are. All right, we got a few here. We're also pleased to have with us one of our Shreveport Chamber Board members, Merrill Watlett. Have a few words to say on behalf of the Chamber.
Yes, I would be happy to. Well, first of all, this is a great day for me. I had the pleasure when I moved back up here 12 and a half years ago to work in Regions with Jim, Matt, Greg, Jr. There's probably not a better banking group in this town. And what's really compelling about this particular institution is that we are the third largest city in Shreveport, Louisiana. And this is the only locally owned bank in Shreveport that has local decision making, a local board, and has a 100% commitment to this community. So that's extraordinary when you think about it. And what Jim and his management team have done is they've taken a very storied and distinguished institution and taken it to the next level, and taken it in such a way that you can actually be an owner because they're publicly traded. You can buy stock in this bank and actually own part of it. So it's an extraordinary day. I think they should be commended for their commitment to our community. As a competitor, I find them to be extremely formidable. And sometimes I wish I was over here than where I am. But with that said, this is a great day, and I couldn't be more delighted to be here on behalf of the Chamber to welcome you to Ribbon Cutting Your Branch.
We also have with us Tracy Whittington, who is the Director of Member Services for the Greater Shreveport Chamber. Tracy, where are you? I'm not going to make you talk. We also are pleased to have with us Jessica Hemingway from the Bossier Chamber. Say a few words.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. We were proud to be here with you for your groundbreaking and now for this ribbon cutting. And so just congratulations on behalf of the Bossier Chamber and our board.
Now I'm going to let the real PR man take over from Ed Walsh.
The host with the most Jim. I am basically the man in between the two Jims. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out today. And thank you, Mother Nature, for holding off the rain for just a few brief moments. Was anyone around 8 months ago when we actually broke ground on this project? Do you remember that day? It was in the early morning hours, about 185 degrees outside. We're doing everything we could to keep Jim from sweating through his suit, but didn't work. What a difference 8 months makes. Here we are in this beautiful facility that has been built. And they always say in business, the most important thing is location, location, location. Isn't this a great location? Yes. You're right across from Cuban Liquors. Actually, you're in the heart of probably the core customer base for Home Federal Bank, which is so important. By the way, that sound, you hear it, it's not an alarm, it's just someone's at the drive-thru already testing it out, so we like that. But anyways, this is such an important day for Home Federal Bank and for the city of Shreveport. This brings Home Federal into the historic South Highlands neighborhood. They can help customers from here, Cedar Grove, other neighborhoods around the city. So it's a very historic day here. So we want to get outside to cut the ribbon before the rain starts coming down. So it is my honor to introduce you to the president as well as the chief executive officer of Home Federal Bank, Mr. Jim Barlow. Thanks.
Great turnout. I appreciate everybody coming out, especially on a day that is threatening to rain so badly. First thing I want to do is introduce my board of directors. They're here, and I'm going to ask Dan, please come up here and stand beside me. I'm not going to ask you to say anything. I just like you to do So first, Dan Herndon is chairman of the board and has directed all the activities of the bank for a long time now. He was president prior to being chairman and then became chairman of the board and has been that for 35 years, I believe. Okay. I'm not going to miss anyone, I know, but in case I do, I'm going to apologize. Not from my board. There's been a lot of people that have made today possible, and I'm going to try to touch everyone, but if I miss you, please let me know. I want to recognize everyone that made this possible. Board of Directors, like Mayor Watlett said, we are the only bank that's headquartered right here in Shreveport, and I think that's very important because we have a local board. We meet in downtown Shreveport once a month, and we make decisions that affects the employees, the customers, the community as a whole. And that's that's something that's been lost over the past several years here. So I think it's really important to recognize this board, to thank them for the contribution not only to the bank but to the community as a whole. I'm gonna get Tom first, Dr. Tom Colquitt, because he's the tallest person in the room right here. Yeah, come stand. Let's all do this. Come up here. Let's go up here. Where is Mr. Tim Wilhite? Right here. Scott Lawrence. Where's Scott? Dr. Steen Treywick, right over here. Okay. Where is Mark Harrison? I see Mark. Okay, and we have one board member that was unable to attend, and that's Woodis Humphrey Sr. And we're actually having a board meeting later on today, and he's going to take part by telephone. But this is the group that makes Home Federal happen. This is the group that has insight into taking care of the community, taking care of employees, and taking care of shareholders of Home Federal Bank. So let's give them a round of applause. I think that it's appropriate to single out the people that made this possible through the construction effort. Like we said, we started 8 months ago on a hot, humid day out here, and it's hard to believe in that short amount of time all the work that's been completed and the facility that we have today. So I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to do this without putting my glasses on, so it may take me a little while, but I refuse to put them on right here. There's too many cameras going. CC&D Construction, Fred White, Niall Watley, Casey, where's Casey? And Don back there. But Fred White, raise your hand right here. Fred has built 3 of these banks for us right now and remodeled one other one. And they just keep getting better and better. So thanks, Fred. You did a great job. And to all your great job. Tim Wilhite, which is one of our directors right here, Wilhite Electric out of Bossier, did all of the electrical work here. Did a great job. A lot of different fixtures that we're just really proud of. That has something that's just a little bit different out there and unique. So thanks, Tim. And Mark Harrison, House of Carpets and Lighting, did all of the floor coverings in here. Excellent job. So thanks, Mark. There's a special person I do want to recognize. I want him to walk up here too. Come up here, Alan. I want you to. You're not on the directors, but you're pretty important to the organization. Alan is what I call an exterior decorator. He made a lot of the decisions up front when we were trying to figure out who we were, what we wanted to become, how we wanted to serve customers, the flow, how we wanted to present Home Federal to the public. And a lot of the things you see in here, from color designs to floor coverings to the fixtures and things like that, Alan had a huge part in that, if not the sole part in that. So thanks, Alan. You did a great job. Appreciate it. I've got to say something about Neville Signs. They came in and did a lot of the etching that you see on the glass, all the signage out front, the digital board. We were very demanding on those guys, but we wanted to get it right, and I think they did a great job, so thanks to Neville's. Last but not least, I'm going to recognize today is Louisiana Landscape Concepts, all of the retaining wall, the French drains, all of the landscaping and materials that were used there, working with the city to make sure all the plantings were approved and things like that. I mean, I think that John Hammeter and his crew with Louisiana Landscape Concepts did a great job, because there was a lot of dirt work going on this lot. So thanks to John Hammeter. Did I miss anyone there? Please don't be bashful if I did. I want to make sure everyone's recognized, because this is a great facility. Now I think it's time to start talking about what Home Federal is, what we've been. And appropriately, we're going to be celebrating our 95th anniversary on April Fool's Day, on April 1st. So I'm not sure exactly why we did April Fool's Day. Maybe that's
I wasn't around.
Well, But I'm glad they did. I'm glad that those four gentlemen got together and formed Home Federal Bank 95 years ago. So let's talk a little bit about being a 95-year-old institution, about being the only local institution, about being a savings and loan. So a savings and loan, when it was put into existence, our goal was to make sure that home ownership became the reality for the ordinary person here in Shreveport and Bossier. So that was not the case back then before Home Federal. So that was our goal back then. So we did home loans almost exclusively, and we did long-term deposits, time deposits, and CDs. So savings and loans were much different than banks back then. So over the course of the years, that difference has narrowed all up until 10 years ago when we decided, or the board of directors decided to bring me and my team on board and turn Home Federal Savings Loan into Home Federal Bank. So in April of 2009, 10 years ago, we changed the name to Home Federal Bank and started implementing all the changes that it took to become a small, local community bank that made decisions right here local, that took care of employees, that took care of customers, and also took care of shareholders. So back then, I want to talk about just a little bit about the growth. I'm going to keep looking down because I don't want to get distracted or we'll be here all day. But because my favorite thing to talk about is Home Federal, so sometimes I go on. But 10 years ago, on 12/31/08, Home Federal had about $150 million in assets. It sounds like a big number, but that's really a tiny bank. It's a small bank. Today, we're over $400 million in assets. We had about $75 million in deposits. Now we have about $375 million in deposits. We had about $25 million in loans, mainly home loans. Now we have $330 million in loans, and it runs the gamut between 1 to 4 family home loans to commercial loans to home equity loans, all kinds of consumer products. So we've really broadened our base deposit-wise and also loan-wise, and we think that it's for the betterment of the community, serving customers along the way. Also, back in 2010, we made the decision to become a fully publicly traded organization. So we did an IPO. And if you think about back in 2010, banks weren't actually, in favor back then. It was right at the height of the banking crisis, the financial crisis. But for some reason, we thought that we could just go up to Wall Street and talk those guys into buying our stock and giving us $30 million. And you know what? It worked better than what we had ever hoped. We ended up oversubscribing to our stock offering. We did bring back $30 million right here in the local community. So while other organizations that are sending capital outside of Shreveport, think about that for a minute. If your bank is not headquartered here, if your shareholders are not living here, your profits are going outside of our community. So being headquartered here and having the majority of our shareholders in Shreveport means that the money we make stays right here in this community, and we reinvested into loans, we reinvested in facilities, and we reinvested to hire people and put people in Shreveport and Bossier to work. And that's just our goal, taking care of the community. Some of the things, I thought Tim was going to be here for the Shreveport Chamber, but the Bossier Chamber's here. So these are some of the things that make a president of a chamber really happy. So 10 years ago, we had 17 employees and about $500,000 in payroll. Well, today we've grown that over 275%. We have 57 employees and a $2.5 million payroll, and that's just right here for Shreveport and the surrounding area. So that's $2 million increase in payroll. So I think there's a lot of happy employees here, and they're able to take that money and reinvest it in other local business and buy homes and cars and that type of thing. Also, during this past 10 years, we have paid, after the IPO, we have paid out approximately $1 million a year in dividends to our shareholders. And a lot of those shareholders were original depositors of Home Federal Bank. So those shareholders have gotten dividends for 10 years that amount to about $10 million. So that is a significant reinvestment in this community. And then, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't talk about the stock price. So 10 years ago, the stock was trading at around $6 a share. We were semi-public back then, but not fully public and listed on NASDAQ. The stock didn't really trade a whole lot, but it was around $6 a share. Today it's at $31 a share, a 500% increase in the value of stock. And a lot of the local depositors are shareholders of Home Federal. So I think they're pretty dang happy with their investment. So taking care of customers, taking care of employees, and rewarding shareholders along the way. One thing that I want to finish up on is talking about this room over here. This is something that's different from our other branches that we've built or our other locations that we've built. This glass wall is new, it's different, and we call this the Herndon Community Room, and I guess today we're dedicating it to the Herndon family. Dan's father, David Herndon, was one of the presidents of Home Federal and also became chairman of the board, and Dan subsequently became president and chairman of the board. So the Herndons have a deep vested interest in this community. They've given back to the community for decades, and I think it's fitting that we dedicate a portion of this branch, of this bank, of this whole institution to the Herndon family. So we're really proud to do that. And some people have been asking me before we started, they got going with me, this is really kind of a modern looking facility. Why do you have this old looking table over here in the Herndon room? And kind of our philosophy is to mix the old with the new. Take the best of the old Home Federal, the savings and loan culture, which is excellent customer service, and marry that to modern banking. So our philosophy is high touch and high tech. High touch customer service, high tech bank products and services as well. This table represents the original board table from 1923 and 1924 when Home Federal was being organized and founded, and by 4 board members that thought, well, you know what, Shreveport deserves better. The average person in Shreveport needs a facility, needs an institution that will make home ownership available to the masses in Shreveport. So these guys sat down at this table and wrote the bylaws, applied for a charter, received it all, and then started having their first board meetings. There's only 4 of them, so it's a small table, but they had their first board meetings right there at that table. And I want to recognize those 4 board members back then, because some of those families are still around today. You'll recognize them. James Smitherman, one of the founding members of the Smitherman Law Firm, that's headed by Jim Hill. Jim Hill's still our corporate attorney. So the Smitherman Law Firm has been the corporate attorney for Home Federal for 95 years now. Guy Oates, he was one of the original founding members and also one of the original presidents of Home Federal. A.L. Wedgeworth, his great-grandson, is it great-grandson or grandson? It's A.L. Wedgeworth. Then you had Dr. Wedgeworth. It's his grandson is a local attorney here. But A.L. Wedgeworth, the local attorney, his grandfather was one of the founding members of Home Federal back in 1924. And then also George Hearn, you know Hearn Avenue, and Henry Hearn, he was a subsequent board member of Home Federal. So these are very prominent families that decided to give back to the community and form an organization that's still around here today, 95 years later, and going strong. So I think they would be extremely proud of what Home Federal has become today. With that, I want to thank everybody again for coming out. The sun is actually trying to come out behind you, if you believe it or not. So we're going to try to get the ribbon cutting done before we get wet. But I do want to thank everyone for coming. And I'm going to ask everyone for their business. I never pass up an opportunity to ask for business. So Home Federal is a great bank. Tell a good friend, tell a good family member, because I know some of them are not good, but tell a good friend or a good family member about a good bank, because we would love the opportunity to take care of you. And I think once you got here, you'd love what you see. So thanks a lot for coming out.
Okay, like I said, we're going to step out front, and everybody, I do want to mention